Greetings, everybody. Welcome to a brand new edition of Holding Court here on the First State Hoops Report YouTube channel. I'm, of course, FSHR founding editor Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. Yes, basketball season is over from a high school perspective, but there's still a lot to talk about. There was just one big thing that I wanted to, sort of share with you guys. Well, share my thoughts on with you guys. So, going to get into that. But first of all, I want to take my time to thank Nigel Alexander and the One Journey family. Had a blast being the announcer for the third annual Delaware Hoops Classic that was at Odessa High School this past Friday evening. Sorry for the camera moving, just trying to get myself settled here. I'm still waking up because last night was it was Sunday morning as I'm recording this, and Saturday night was WrestleMania night in the Final Four. So I was back and forth. I had the Final Four on my computer and WrestleMania on my TV. So I was back and forth doing that until after midnight, and still trying to wake up a little bit. But yeah, the One Journey Delaware Hoops Classic Friday night was exceptional. First time we ever had a girls basketball game at the One Journey Classic. Those young ladies showed out. The middle school boys played well. High school guys, they were up and down the floor. 237 points combined between the high school boys. In a classic sense, I mean, I get that, some showcases are meant to be sort of more like, for college scouts to see, your fundamentals and stuff. But in certain showcases, you just want to see the kids, hoop. And that's what they did in the boys' game. There were plenty of dunks, plenty of three-pointers, a lot of good basketball on both sides. And the funny thing about being asked to be the announcer, because Nigel approached me weeks ago and said, because of course I was on the radio for a few broadcasts with Sean Green from WDEL. Once again, I want to thank Sean Green for that opportunity. Greatly appreciate it. And Nigel said, "How about you come be the announcer for the Delaware Hoops Classic?" And I said, "You sure you want me with a microphone?" I mean, because here's a little known secret about me. I get really anxious when it comes to public speaking. Shoot, I'm anxious, just talking to a laptop every week, talking to y'all. But Nigel said, "Don't worry about it. Just come through, announce the players, add your little spice to it after every basket, and we cool." And I thought about it. I was like, well, nothing beats a failure but a try, as my mom likes to say. So went ahead and did it and had a blast. Like, I had so much fun Friday night. Like, if you had told me that literally pulling up to Odessa High School, which was annoying anyway because the traffic from going across Route 1, because I live in North Wilmington, so I got on 95 at Concord Pike. Turned down, got past the it took forever to get past the Christiana Mall exit on the Route 1. And I mean, it was just like congested all the way up until the other Route 1 exit that takes you, of course, across the William Roth Bridge. So my nerves were already bad, and the traffic didn't make it any better. But by the time I got to Odessa, everything was cool. I talked to Nigel. He gave me some last minute instructions and just had fun with it. So everybody that has shown me love for that, that has said, you did a great job. It was fun listening to you. Thank you. Because I was nervous the entire 4 hours, the entire 3 games. It was just like, all right, don't mess this up. Don't mess nobody's name up. Don't have a hot mic moment. It was just like, just trying to, cover all the bases. And we did that. And we had a blast. Looking forward to doing this next year if it allows. So thanks once again to Nigel Alexander and the One Journey family for allowing me to be the man on the mic Friday night. Had a great time. Okay. Now, for the important topic of this particular episode of Holding Court, Thursday, there was a meeting. Actually, no, it was Wednesday. One day this week, we'll say it like that because I can't remember. One day this week, I remember I was following on Twitter. There was a meeting between the Officials Association, the DIAA, the athletic directors of Delaware, and it got real spicy. Because if you're not familiar, the 1-year agreement that DIAA and the officials and the athletic directors signed expires the first day of fall practice for next season, August 15th. So Here's an interesting thing. Apparently, a lawyer advised that DIAA not lock in to a 5-year contract with the Officials Association. This lawyer told him just go year to year. So once again, like last year when we had that brief stoppage because we weren't sure that the officials were going to show, we're probably going to have the same thing this year, and it's a likelihood that this could seep over not just in the fall sports but into winter sports as well, because a lot of times we forget these officials do cover and officiate multiple sports. Like, I've seen guys and girls do volleyball and basketball and softball and football and wrestling and lacrosse and baseball and soccer. And you really have to be, number one, you just have to have the energy to do that, because not only are you following these kids that are some cases 30, 40 years younger than you up and down the court, you also have to just be having your eyes out for, whether this was offsides, whether that, kill was inbounds, whether, that's a foul or whatever. So you really have to, it's not an easy job to be an official. And considering how, people really attack officials verbally from a verbal standpoint, it's not nearly enough money what they're getting. If you're wondering what they're getting, I'm going to pull from Sean Green's WDEL story so I can tell you how much the officials make. Currently, DIA regulations require member schools to pay varsity officials in each sport $84 a game, with a $5 to $15 bump for various postseason rounds with no travel stipend. An agreement between the Delaware Association of Athletic Directors, and the Delaware Interscholastic Officials Committee led to a more tiered system where football would get $100, most other sports $95, while track and field and swimming would get $80. In addition, officials would get a travel fee of $10 to $20 if they lived more than 14 miles from a game site. Now I'm going to tell you, we all have cars. Those of us who are listening are adults. We mostly have automobiles because we have to get back and forth to work. Folks have to get their kids back and forth to games. $10, $20 ain't going to fill your tank. Not today. Maybe in the early 2000s, sure. But that's not going to fill your tank in 2023. That's one thing. So if you're asking officials to drive and, pay their own way, it's pretty much it, because that money doesn't carry anymore. $100 now is like $1. That's the one thing adulthood taught me, that when you're a younger person and you get $100, it's like, wow, I can do some things with this. That's you're thinking when you're a teenager. Like if you were one of the blessed people that had birthday cards with money in it, like you were just like, I'm rich. Now it's like, $100 is like, it doesn't even cover like your electric bill, your cable bill, your car insurance. It doesn't even cover grocery shopping for most families now. So, I mean, if we're talking $100 a game, and you're really just and then you just say, okay, if you live longer than this much from a game, we'll give you maybe half a tank. And half a tank is being generous. So I get why the officials are striking. Well, no, they're not striking yet. Let's not put that into existence. Let's just say we understand why they're on a collision course with the DIAA once again. And I don't feel like, I worry about it because, granted, I've covered high school sports in some form or another most of my life. And I want to see the kids play. I want to see the, people in the stands enjoying it. But for the few people that ruin it by berating and chastising the officials, that's why we are where we are at this point. You could probably get these folks to agree to a 5-year deal if they weren't at risk of being cussed out every time a play doesn't go the way of somebody's son or daughter or student. Well, not student, because the teachers don't act like that. The teachers and the admins don't act like that. It's mostly, parents, family members, trainers, crews, circles, cliques, whatever you want to call them. These are the folks that are really just like, attacking the officials verbally. And it's like, yo, it's not nearly enough money for that. It's not nearly enough money for that. So I get why the officials are doing what they're doing, but there's also a side to it that we really need to discuss, and that is a lot of these public school districts north of the canal are struggling from a financial standpoint. And to me, that's the fault of the city of Wilmington, Newcastle County, the Delaware Board of Education. Nobody has really made any effort to pour resources into Red Clay, into Christina School District. Because if you recall, a couple of years ago, there was a referendum that if it failed, that schools and that sports in the Christina School District would have been canceled. So that's the fault. That to me, that I blame Wilmington for not having a public school district and no public high schools, because the only high schools within city limits you have to apply to get into and tuition to get into. I mean, Howard High School is tuition free, but you still have to apply. Salesianum, Padua, Ursuline, great schools, faith-based, faith-serving schools, St. Elizabeth's, but you still have to apply. You still have to pay. There has not been a free public high school in Wilmington, Delaware since Wilmington High closed in 1999. I know this because I was a Howard grad. I graduated in 99. Howard and Wilmington used to have a fierce rivalry, so we knew each other. And when they told us that Wilmington High was going to, because they announced this in 97, I'll never forget it. They announced in 97 that Wilmington High was going to be phased out and that the building would be taken over and converted into the Charter School of Wilmington, because Cab Calloway was already there as a performing arts school. Cab Calloway was already there. But they just changed it from Wilmington High School to Charter School of Wilmington. And people should have seen the writing on the wall for traditional public education then. And no one really thought about it until years later. Now we have, more charter schools up north than we do public schools. And all the resources and all the care for public schools is being concentrated on one area in Newcastle County, and that's below the bridge, and that's Middletown. When I was growing up, once again, I'm definitely going back in my day and get off my lawn, if you will. There was one high school in Middletown back when I was in high school, and that was Middletown High School. If you had told me coming out of Howard in 1999 that there would be 5 going on 6 high schools below the canal, because you got Middletown now. Then Appo and St. George's came along. Then MOT Charter. Then Odessa just opened up. Then there's the new high school opening on the other side of Summit Bridge. So on the 896 side of Middletown. So if you told me by the time 2025 rolls around that we would have 6 high schools in the Middletown area, I would have said you were crazy, because you couldn't. It's so funny because when my mom used to make us travel with her to go see her family on the Eastern Shore, in Pond Town, in Millingtown, Maryland, in Chestertown, Maryland, we used to have to cut through Middletown. And it was just like, I mean, it's still traditionally you can only get to 301 from 299. And, you just go right on through Middletown, make that left. The Wawa wasn't there then. The truck stop was always there then, but the Wawa wasn't there then. This was back in the early 90s. But if you had told me that Middletown would have grown so much that would be a bigger city and a bigger draw for people than Wilmington, I would have said you were crazy. I probably would have given that to Newark first. But, of course, Newark has UD, so they really don't need 500 high schools. And that's probably why people have just stopped caring for Newark, Glasgow, Christianity, even though they're all within, like, not a stone's throw, but a pretty fair, close drive for the most part. Like Glasgow High School is literally on the same road as UD. It's College Road. You just take College Road on into Newark in the UD from Glasgow. So that to me feels like something that people aren't really discussing. Like these schools can barely afford to keep the lights on. And now if we're talking about paying officials and if the shot clock thing comes to pass, I still hope the shot clock thing does come to pass. We need the shot clock in Delaware high school basketball. We just do. Um, but yeah, no one in Wilmington seems to care about public education in Wilmington. No one in Newcastle County seems to care about it. No one down in Dover seems to care about it. And so if we're just gonna let public education die and turn this into a thing where it's a privilege and not a right, what are you gonna do? Like, there's literally no public school system up here. Maybe Brandywine's okay. I think Brandywine is in good shape. But Red Clay's struggling. Red Clay just had a meeting where they're trying to figure out how to stop students from leaving AI DuPont, because AI DuPont was flight A for the longest time because they used to have thousands of students there. Now they barely have like what, 500 or 600. Red Clay is struggling outside of Conrad and DMA, and once again, those are specialty schools, like niche schools. Conrad Schools of Science, Delaware Military Academy. Those are like they're public education in name only. Those are other schools that you have to sort of have a process to apply and get into. So I don't know if there's a tuition thing for either of them. No, I don't think there is. But either way, the public education system in Delaware is in dire straits, and that's why things like paying officials becomes a point of consternation, because you're watching every dime. And for Wilmington to neglect it, for Newcastle County to neglect it, for Dover to neglect it, it's sinister. I'm sorry. Like, I'm a public education advocate. I can say this now because I recently just finished up a term working for a firm where I had to tuck in my public education pride and work with charter schools. And I'm not against charter schools completely. Don't get me wrong. Some of them have merit. But if we're just going to turn this into a system where we turn schools and education into a for-profit enterprise and not equipping kids with the things that they need to be successful, then we're turning this into a thing where kids are going to be left out in the cold because for one reason or another, they might not be emotionally understood. They might come from poor backgrounds, disadvantaged backgrounds or whatever. And if we're going to start excluding kids from education, then it's going to lead to a nasty road. I mean, it's already leading to a nasty road, but, because the way some charter schools are set up. But if this is where we're heading, then people can't be surprised that school districts have trouble keeping kids. School districts have trouble, doing things like, being able to pay officials for high school games or keeping staff around for high school games and things of that nature. So it's a lot to it. It's a lot to, take in. But I just wanted to say that the officials are people too. A lot of them get a ton of disrespect for just trying to do the very best they can. Yes, there are some things about high school officiating that are interesting. Like, I really hope that at some point we get a reset as far as the spin move goes in basketball here in Delaware, because every spin move I've seen during an official Delaware high school basketball game is called a travel. And a spin move is not a travel. It's a gather. You get one step or two steps, and then you go up with your move. Like, I can see if people are just like, doing like, the hokey pokey. But no, it's just like dribble, pick your dribble up, spin, layup. And that's been called a travel ever since I can remember. Like, in high school, I probably didn't pay much attention to it because we weren't doing spin moves back in the 90s. I mean, not that many guys and girls were doing spin moves in the 90s. The ones that were, those were the ones that ended up playing D1 basketball. But now everyone that is like, every high school kid now can at least execute a halfway decent spin move. Back in the 90s, the spin move was something like, now it's like, okay, everybody can do it. And of course, the Euro step. I mean, nobody was Euro stepping back in those days. Now, you got the kids stepping through. The game has evolved so much, and the officiating. I will say this about the meeting. One of the heads of the DIA board said, "I'm not comfortable paying officials more until we see more quality officiating." That wasn't a smart thing to say. I'm going to go ahead and just say that was dumb. I'm just going to go ahead and say that was dumb because it doesn't. What favors are you doing the kids, the coaches, and the parents by insulting the officials? Help me understand that. Please help me understand that. Because I mean, yes, some calls can be questionable. I don't think like I said, I don't think there are too many officials out there that are saying, well, I'm just going to affect the game this way because this is how I feel today. They call it like they see it 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10. So for somebody in a leadership position to say, I'm not comfortable paying y'all more because I want to see more quality, it's like, do you want to have high school sports in 23, 24? Because saying stuff like that means the officials are going to be more than comfortable saying, well, you want the quality? Go find it. That's pretty much what that was. When I saw that, when I saw Sean Green and Michael Lang tweet that, I was like, yeah, that wasn't very smart. And it's disappointing that people still think of work and labor in the context of, well, if you were doing it right, we wouldn't be here or all of this. Like human error is a part of life. Like all of us make mistakes every single day of our lives, whether it be at work, in school, with our families, with our relationships, with our friendships, driving. You drop something in your kitchen. Mistakes are a part of life. Human error is a part of life, and that definitely extends to officiating. So to say that you don't want to pay the officials more because you don't think there's quality, then it's like you're really just poking the bear here, and that's not going to be good for the future of Delaware high school sports. Because I know like there are people that are officials that watched that and said, "Really? Okay." And you really just really insulted them to their faces. Like, Walt Connor, one of the great officials in Delaware, cool guy to talk to, by the way, also. Shout out Walt. Like, I bet his face was like, are you freaking kidding me, pal? Like, he was, speaking on behalf of the Officials Association because, of course, Walt is one of the deans of officials. And, it was just like, when dude said that to him, I know he had to be like, "You've got to be kidding me," and because that was my feeling. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me," and I get that some folks have misgivings about certain calls, maybe certain referees or whatever. But from the fan standpoint, the fans are going to talk anyway. It's what they do. But for a executive director or whatever Doug Thompson is, so I'm just going to say his name. I'm not a hard person to find, for crying out loud. Again, I say what I say. I stand 10 toes down on it. I'm not a hard person to find. We can talk all day long. So, but yeah, for Doug Thompson to say that, I thought that was just egregious. It's like you really are just inviting a whole lot of drama into a situation that doesn't need any more drama. But I hope that there's a resolution to this because the kids ultimately suffer. That's what it boils down to. The kids ultimately suffer because, granted, high school sports has become more of an enterprise than I would have liked it to be, but at the end of the day, it's still a game, whatever game it is, whether you're lining up 1st and 10, whether you are taking a corner in field hockey, whether you are serving in volleyball, whether you're at the free throw line in basketball, whether you're shaking your opponent's hand and you're ready to get your grapple on in wrestling, it's still a game. We're watching children play children's games, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be bureaucratic. It shouldn't be political. It shouldn't be financial drama. It should just be fun. It should just be fun. And hopefully, and I get why the officials are, watching things as they go, because I mean, it's not nearly enough money. $100 again, $100 does not carry in 2023 like it did in 1993, because it definitely didn't carry in 2003 and 2013 either. That $100 just ain't what it used to be. So, but I hope there's a resolution to it. I hope, everybody can come to the table, come to an agreement that everybody likes, and make it long term. No more year-to-year stuff. Whoever that lawyer was, I'm not going to say they should be disbarred, because that's egregious. Like, that would be somebody saying to me, you don't need to write another thing, Chris Stevens. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm a doggone good writer. What you talking about? You don't need to record another thing, Chris Stevens. Hey, I got a brand new camera. What you trying to say here? So I don't want to say the lawyer that advised DIAA should be like sanctioned or anything, but that was a head-scratching decision, because once again, here we are. 1 year after we weren't sure we're going to have a fall sports season, we're going to be right back there again August 15th this year. And it shouldn't be that way. But again, I hope the officials and the DIAA and the ADs can come to an agreement, because at the end of the day, we just want to see the kids play, whatever it is, whether it's football, whether it's field hockey, whether it's soccer, whether it's volleyball, basketball, track and field, cross country, swimming, wrestling, you name it, we want to watch it. And hopefully we can all see it in 2023-24. And that's pretty much all I had for this week. I mean, I'm still going to get back to basketball at some point. I'll probably end up, talking about, because one thing that was mentioned to me that folks were like, because people are discovering that, hey, I've been around a while and I know a little bit about this game, especially here in Delaware. Like, why don't you talk about some of your favorite players and teams of all time? And I think I'm going to start doing that. And, just share some memories of my experiences as a journalist. I actually need to write my memoir, because, I mentioned this before. If you're watching this and you see me talking about it, just say, Chris, write your memoir, because 21 years of journalism experience is a lot to be able to share with y'all. And, from high school and college basketball, I've seen a lot of everything. I've seen some great players. I've seen some very interesting games. There's one game in particular that I want to talk about that absolutely was just like high up there on the list. This is when I was working in Maryland. We can talk about that in another episode. I just want to talk about the officials this week, because, there has to be not a hot take about it, but just some nuance, give you guys some game as far as like, what the officials are being paid, what's going on with public education and why something just as simple as paying officials is a tall task nowadays, and why, the officials should be asking for more. And that's all I wanted to talk to y'all about this week. So thank y'all for watching this edition of Holding Court. Greatly appreciate y'all's time as always. As usual, all the ways to get in contact with us or connect with us on social media will be in the description below. Next week, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Maybe I'll have a guest on. I'll reach out to some folks, say, hey, want to talk basketball with me on Holding Court? Let's do it. So until next time, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. If you're in the gyms for different things, ball out, be safe, have fun, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace out.